I am a real victim of Jeffrey Epstein. The reason you don't see me in the news is because I am a real victim. Real victims are not being represented by attorneys or in the media. I was trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor by Deborah Palfrey, the DC madam. I was a student at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. in 2002. I answered an ad in the city paper. The ad was ambiguous. Deborah was professional. I thought I was going on a real job interview. Instead, I was drugged and raped by Paul Hung. I tried to tell Deborah what happened, but something she said made me realize she knew what happened. At that point, they had my driver's license, and I did not know what to do or where to go for help. At that point, I was driven by Jonathan Luna to the Bethesda Marriott on Pook's Hill, where Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor drugged and raped me. I have tried to get help. I called the police. I was abducted for 2 weeks. I was moved from Washington, D.C. by Ed Norris, who was the superintendent of the Maryland State Police. He is now an actor on the show The Wire and has a radio show. My name is Jessica Collins. I live in Virginia. Today is September the 3rd, 2019. If anything happens to me, it's because this information is true, and I have a lot more information about who I was trafficked to in the government, people who are in the White House today. If you could redistribute this video, please save it and redistribute it. If anything happens to me, at least I have this out. I have been threatened. My car was disabled by a government employee when the Jeffrey Epstein news broke. I have been without a vehicle for 40 days. I don't know what else to say. Please save this video. Please redistribute it. Please try and spread it. There is no way that this is going to get out there in the media unless we, the American people, do the work. The government is involved, and I was trafficked for nearly 17 years. Please try to help by redistributing this, tweeting it, talking about it. I'll do everything that I can. Thank you for listening. I hope that together we can get to the bottom of this and hold the criminals accountable.
Jessica, hi, it's Joe Calvin.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very well. I'm sorry I'm ringing you a little bit earlier than we'd agreed, but I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm just sitting here. I was drafting an email to
Yeah. First of all, I apologize for missing our agreed call yesterday. Something came up. I think I sent you an email about it, but yeah, we had a bit of a shocking situation, which unfortunately kind of threw my weekend off in a different way. But hope you forgive me for that, because I know it's been tough for you to be open with people, and I appreciate the fact you've taken the time to talk to me.
Yeah, no, it's I really am sorry to hear about the loss that you suffered. So my condolences.
Thank you. No, and look, I appreciate that. But look, this is about you, and that's what I want to talk about. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your situation, and hopefully, we can talk about that, and my goal is to help you, I guess, and help you in whatever way I can.
Oh, that's what I'm hoping to find. I've spoken, and that's sometimes I think in our interaction why I was a little upset and worried is because I've spoken to the FBI. I've given them everything that I know. Um, they are not investigating the claims that I'm making, which are true, and so that causes me a lot of alarm, knowing that law enforcement is not investigating real claims. And then I've been contacted by some journalists. I actually reached out to them because they cover these type of topics. But then in speaking to them, I'm not certain if it's just the sense that I get. It seems more like an interrogation than an interview, and it seems like people are mostly concerned about what evidence I have. And so that's a little bit concerning as well, because I know I'm a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor for certain, and through Deborah Palfrey, the DC madam, and that's certain. But being able to provide that evidence from 17 years ago is something that I can't do. It has to come from the hotel room, the Marriott, where I saw them. It's going to have to come from other sources.
Sorry to interrupt. Is this the Marriott in Palm Beach or where?
No, this is in, the town is Bethesda, in Montgomery, Montgomery County. Yeah, I don't know why they would choose that hotel, but that is where I saw them. And I know what type of room I saw them in. I know what the configuration and the type of furniture was like back then in 2002. I can describe it, and in very accurate detail. I can describe accurately what Jeffrey Epstein was wearing, what happened to me up to 20 or 30 minutes when I lost consciousness. So it's kind of confusing to me that people are continuing to ask me about providing evidence when the evidence is in the hands of authorities that I have no control over.
Yeah, I understand. Look, and again, we messaged about this, and this is a conversation. I won't use any of this, but obviously I will say as well that ideally I'd like you to go on the record. I have clients in the UK who love to speak to you on it, but let's forget all that for now.
Okay.
Could you describe to me how this relationship started? What was the first step? How did you come to be involved with Jeffrey Epstein? How did it kind of start?
Okay.
And what age were you? Obviously is key to that as well, but just give me a kind of here's how it happened.
Okay. Yeah, it's very different than what I've heard. I haven't looked into many of the stories. I hear the headlines, and I hear some people talking about them on YouTube, but I haven't looked into their claims, but they're very different than my own.
Okay.
Mine, how I began, I was only in contact with him once. But, from doing research, it looks as if his trafficking ring was operated through a vast network of people. So I wasn't in contact with him more than that one time, him and Andrew at the same time. And that occurred when I was a student at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. I was in the first semester of my junior year. At the last 2 weeks of the semester, I was in finals already, and I had been employed. Do you want every little detail or just the general synopsis?
No, I mean every detail is really useful.
Okay.
I'll be honest. You're describing college like we're dealing with different semesters here in Ireland. I'm sorry now, it's just a little bit of lack of knowledge from my perspective. But like what age you were. Catholic, what was it? Catholic University. You're 18 then, or you're
No.
younger, older?
No, see, that's the problem, is that I was not a minor. I was 23 years old. I'm part Oriental, and so I look
Okay.
I looked back then very, very young for my age. So when I was 23, I looked like I was probably, under 18. I didn't look like a 23-year-old. I didn't behave like a
Okay.
23-year-old. I didn't have, I already had 2 children at that point. So these are some very different facts of my story that are very different than the ones that, the media is grabbing onto. Nonetheless, what I'm saying is true. I still am a victim. I don't understand why there's any difference between me being, 17 or 18 or 23 or
Absolutely
30.
not. No, no.
I'm sorry?
I mean, no, I think it's, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the fact that you are a little bit older doesn't change the fact you were taken advantage of.
Yeah, and I'm
And
trapped.
actually,
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't see any difference. The crime is exactly the same. It's a black and white crime defined by law. I've been trapped in the same trafficking for 17 years. I still have people in the government that handle me. I don't know any better word to describe it. Handle, manipulate, coerce, bribe me. Some of the Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself with where I was at.
yeah, okay, let's go back. You let's go back to the very start.
Okay, I was
You
dating.
meet,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
You tell me the story from the very start, how it kind of panned out, and where you are to where you are today.
Okay, it's long. It's a very long story. I was
I have
dating.
plenty of time, so
Oh,
take
okay.
as long
Oh,
take as long as you need.
that's great. I appreciate it. Everybody else has rushed me and started off the conversation with, "Well, I only have an hour, so we're gonna have to make this fast." And I'm like,
No,
"Okay."
I've look, my wife. I will say this: my wife is heavily pregnant. So the only thing that will stop
Oh.
this conversation is if she shouts at me saying that she's gonna go into labour.
Oh my
Other than that,
gosh. No,
it's open season. You will as long as you need,
that's
and
great.
I want to hear everything.
Aw, that's awesome. Is that your first, or do you guys have children
No,
already?
they're second. They're
Okay.
second. So
Very
yeah, we're prepared as we can be.
it's always a fun thing. I love to being pregnant. So I was at the community college prior to Catholic University, and I started dating a man from Pakistan. Um,
Okay.
and he lived in the United States, with some of his family, and they did have. There was a Russian Ukrainian girl that they had um, close contact with. Her name was Sylvia. She was a nanny, and she didn't speak much. His cousin Ahmed kind of ran her up and down from Florida to the DC area. So I suspect there was something going on in with their situation there. But the person.
I'm sorry for interrupting now, but this is all in Florida.
Nope, this was in Maryland.
Mary, okay. Excuse me, sorry.
But we did travel to Florida a few times.
Okay.
So I was dating this guy from Pakistan for 3.5 years, and he employed me under the table at a gas station that one of his friends owned. And we broke up while I was at Catholic University. So I needed a job quickly because the next week I had no income for gas and food for, getting through the week of school. So I picked up the city paper, which is a newspaper on the campus in all of DC too. And I opened to the classified ads. And there was an ad, and it read, must be 23 years old, must have 2 years education, and must have a proportionate body. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. I went ahead and called right there in the parking lot of the bookstore with the paper in my hand. And the woman who answered the phone said her name was Julia, and asked me if I could go on an interview that evening after classes. And so I agreed to go on the interview, and I went to who I later found out was a person named Paul Hung. He was an Oriental man and an attorney in a really nice neighborhood in a nice home. And he raped me during the interview, and I called Julia afterwards and, thought that I had done something wrong, and I was scared and I didn't know how to tell her. I was trying to tell her about it, but then she said, "How was he?" And I realized she knew that that's what had happened, and that I was involved in something other than a real interview, a job for real work. And so I didn't know what to do at that point, only being 23 and just not understanding what was going on. I froze in a state of like silence, and I didn't know where to go for help. I, looking back, would have called the police, called my family or something along those lines. But at the time, my reaction was not a healthy one, because I had been abused as a child already. So it was an easy, I'm a person that could be taken advantage of very easily. I'm very trusting and naive. And in situations like that, I can be taken advantage of. And that's exactly what happened, and the type of person they were looking for. So as I was telling her about that, I'm sorry, as she was telling me, she had said, I'm sorry, I just get a little hyper sometimes, and my...
No, it's fine. We're talking about the lady Julia now, is it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I found out later that it was actually Deborah Palfrey. Many years after her trial occurred, I found out that's who she really was, the person I had been speaking to. And so when she said, "How was he?" I knew that she knew what happened. And I just remember my...
And when she, I'm very sorry now for interrupting. When she said, "How was," she was talking about which person?
She was talking about her attorney, Paul Hung.
Paul Hung, okay.
Mm-hmm. So I was screened by one person, by an attorney, first. The next day, she made arrangements to have me picked up in a corporate limousine.
Okay. This was in Virginia, or...
I don't remember being picked up. No, this was in, this would have either been in Washington, D.C. from my school. Okay. I would have been picked up on campus, or...
from the university or the college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Sorry now for asking so many questions.
Oh, no, I don't mind. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's great that I have somebody to tell everything that I know to, and that will listen, So I was driven to the Bethesda Marriott. I remember the person being Jonathan Luna. Now, at that point, I didn't know who he was. I know him in our interaction. He was really friendly. He was very... He was a really good person, like very charismatic. It was easy to talk to him. He made me feel very comfortable. And I remember the moment when he dropped me off, kind of being afraid to leave him, but I did it anyway. I had 2 of my school books with me, because Julia had told me to pretend that I was a schoolgirl and I was going to speak to my professors because I needed better grades. And so I took 2 of my school books, because the whole thing was making me really nervous, and I thought that might help me to feel more comfortable, So I took 2 of my school books up to the room with me, and Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor were there. And I sat down on a couch. Andrew stood. It was an L-shaped couch and an entertainment center in front of it with a coffee table. And Jeffrey stood to the right of me, and Andrew stood to the left of me with his arms crossed Jeffrey talked. I don't remember what we talked about. I was trying to play along as if I was a college girl, and I think he got a little annoyed because I'm not a good actor.
Right.
And he was done playing.
You were, sorry now, but you were put into this situation to portray a certain, or at least that was your view of it, that you were there and you were going to play this role.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was instructed to do, was to pretend that I was a college student. Since I was a college student, I tried to give myself some props, but it wasn't really necessary. I did it. I brought the books anyway. And then I thought I had remembered him giving me something to drink, and now I don't quite remember him giving me something to drink. But I do know that he had to have drugged me because I wouldn't have lost consciousness for no reason. And then... when
you're talking about he here, you're talking about Jeffrey?
Jeffrey. Yeah, he was definitely the one that was in charge. He was the one leading the activities.
And was it just... Look, I know this is a really upsetting thing to remember. Was it just you were there? Who was in the room? Was it just you, Andrew, Prince Andrew, and Jeffrey, or was there other women there?
No, there was nobody else there. It was just us three. That was it.
Okay.
Yep. So I can go into detail about what he was wearing and what sexual acts they made me perform. I'm not sure if you're interested in that.
Well, I suppose what I'm really interested in is, first of all, I need to say, the reason I wanted to call you and speak to you is I wanted to establish that, this is a credible thing, and there's no question in my mind now that this is a credible situation, and what I'd really like to do is to give you an opportunity to tell your story in a wider context. Look, everything you've said to me matches to what I've spoken to other victims, I've spoken to other people, and this is completely... And I think you need to have your... some of the victims have their day in court. You need to have your day as well, and to be able to tell the story.
I would like that.
Well, so that's what I want to do. That's why I wanted to speak to you. I mean, we get a lot of people who are, look, maybe they're not honest about the situation. You always want to kind of speak to someone and, I suppose, get a good sense of where they are. But speaking to you, I have no doubt that what you're saying is accurate and true. And I'd love to connect you with some of my colleagues in the British press, particularly, who could, help you tell your story, which I think, basically, I have no doubt now that you're telling the truth.
Oh, good.
So,
can I give you more detail, please? I really want to tell you everything. He was wearing black leather pants, very tight black leather pants. I do know a person related to this trafficking ring. He's a real estate agent, and he did have involvement in boats in the sex trafficking ring. I also have videotaped evidence of the person who was employed by Deborah Palfrey. I don't know if I'm going too fast. That he abducted me. He has also stolen some of the property that I owned. Those books, he may have those books. I may have them. I have some of my architecture books. He had some of them that he stole. But I'm glad that you believe me.
And I know it's so hard to recollect these things, but, did you, Prince Andrew, he's, I suppose, a nice little figure, but...
Well, not to me.
You could say, if he was in front of you today, you could say that's the person that but
not,
they're with me now.
yeah, well, back then, alls I knew was this. I didn't know who they were. When I saw them on the news together,
You were told this
that's what
guy
jogged.
was
No, it's when I saw them on the news together. It's what jogged my memory
right.
of being
Okay.
with them together, and then I remembered them. But nowadays he looks the same but different. He has, his hair has
Yeah.
changed in color. He's gotten some weight, just like me. The same with everybody. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so um, I don't know what the question was. I'm sorry.
No, I was just. I suppose the question is that you recognise Epstein and
hmm Yep.
Prince Andrew was the other person,
hmm
and look, is it if Prince Andrew stood in front of you today, would you be able to say this was the man who did what he did?
Yeah, I think so. I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's really important.
Yeah, I did see their
Look, I mean,
faces. I know that it's in my memory, as well as a lot of other people, because I stopped cooperating with Deborah Palfrey about 2 weeks afterwards. I didn't like her, and I didn't like what she was doing to me. So I started getting aggravated with her, and her in return was aggravated with me. And this person that I know is her other attorney, she set me up with him, and it seems like it was a setup, because he asked me to cut her out of the scenario. Like, don't tell her that I want to see you, but I want to see you without her knowing, and then we will split the money. Instead of you giving her all your money, I'll give you that money and you keep it for yourself. And I said, okay, that would be great, because I didn't like being controlled. And the very, very next appointment she sent me on was to this person that abducted me. It was the very first appointment that she sent me on in my own vehicle. The person kept me there in their apartment for 2 weeks. I have the videotaped evidence of this person saying these things are true from jail right now. And he's also associated with Oliver North and them trafficking girls on boats out there to him. According to him, I can't verify his information, but I know some of the things he told me in the past, and I've taped him from jail recently, which is very dangerous for me because he could kill me easily. He's related to Jerry.
Look, I said this to you in the first email I sent you. I mean, you should contact, the legal representatives that are working for the Epstein victims. I don't, look, you should get legal representation from the people that are working on this case.
Well, yeah, I have contacted them. Lisa Bloom is an attorney who is supposedly representing victims, and she won't even return a phone call. I've left her 3 messages. Gloria Allreed, excuse me, is somebody that I contacted in 2005. I went to her office in Beverly Hills in person, and told her about the owner of a drug rehab facility in California that raped me. And her assistant told me that I'm a liability and they wouldn't take the case. That owner of the rehab...
How you contacted Brad Edwards? I really think you should contact Brad Edwards because he's in very good.
Yes, I did. I did. I sent him an email. I haven't heard from him though.
Well, look, let's. It's getting late here for me now. My cats are attacking me. But what I would suggest, first of all, thank you so much for talking to me, and it's been really illuminating, and I really think that you are. I'm not an expert, but as a journalist, speak to people all the time, and I believe you. I think what you're saying is true, and that's really important. I would like to do a couple of things. I would like you to speak to my colleagues in the Sun newspaper in England who have covered Epstein and who have spoken a lot about Prince Andrew's potential, or his connection to that. The second thing I'd like you to do is to contact Brad Edwards and his law firm, because they have done a very good job at representing the victims, and I think, look,
I did. Yep.
My perception is that you're telling the truth, and I'd like you to get representation in that regard. So I'd like to do both of those things in the morning.
So much.
It is now 10:05 here, and my daughter is yelling upstairs.
Okay.
So can I reconnect with you in the morning and maybe do these things, and we can keep in touch?
Oh, Joe, thank you so very, very much. I think it means a lot more to me, and I really just wanted to tell you that I appreciate you taking your time to hear me out and to listen to me. It means so much that I can't tell you how it's been feeling with nobody being able to help,
Listen, I'll be honest, I came into this call not sure if I was going to hear what I believe, but I think what you're saying is credible and true, and I hope I can help you, and I'm interested. I'm going to try and let's keep talking, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and let's try to make it work. And you know my email address, you know my number, so let's regroup in the morning. I'll connect you with the Brad Edwards and that team, and let's just keep talking. I think that's what we should do.
Okay, that sounds really great.
And it's been an absolute, and thank you so much for being so honest and so much for being so open, and I hope it was a good conversation. It's really, really nice to talk to you, and I appreciate it that you took the time. And again, sorry for delaying it.
Oh, no.
For a little bit.
I'm really sensitive now because of, knowing that this happened to me, and then seeing all the news and being like, wait a second, but they're saying that they're helping people and they're not. I mean, people that this happened to, it was kind of confusing.
Well, look, I mean, you've Irish heritage, and I've lived here all my life in Ireland, and sexual abuse, child sexual abuse can go on.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah.
For years, decades, and that's what happened in this country.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church was able to do it for decades without challenging.
Yeah.
Anyone challenging it. So
yeah. This.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long.
My daughter is happened to my daughter too, and she lost her life, and that's the only reason that I started to investigate what happened to me in my life, to figure out what happened to her, because I found out the police were lying about what happened to her. And
I mean, genuinely, like, the whole apparatus of the Irish state was set up to protect the church for years and years, and so many terrible things are allowed to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know, did you see the film Spotlight? But that was about Boston and the Boston Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can get into that later. I didn't mean to bring it up as a separate topic.
No, but I suppose what I'm trying to say is my mind is always open, and I think you can count certain things. You can say, oh, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Everything is possible.
Right.
Unfortunately, everything is possible.
Yeah. They sterilized her in a Catholic Charities facility, and she had to run away from that facility, and then they shut the facility down the year after she ran away, on the day that she died.
You know, I bet people don't believe you when you say that, but
No, they don't. And they don't believe me when I say that a Russian hacker with amnesia watched her die. They think I'm insane, but it's factual. If he is Russian, he could be Israeli, he could be something other than Russian, but that's what he said he was. And he did have amnesia, according to the police.
I mean, look, I believe what you're saying. I mean, I live in Ireland. I've seen the way that powerful institutions can dictate.
That's what I believe is happening to me.
A long time, and they did it here in Ireland. And powerful people will do the same thing. And, you know, that's how Jeffrey was able to get away with it for so long.
Yeah, I think he probably still is, in my opinion. I can't be certain, you know, of things I don't have firsthand knowledge of, but I would guess that he might be getting away with this as well.
Look, let's keep. Look, I think the most important thing is next steps are. Let's maybe chat tomorrow. I'd like to get you on the record. Particularly my clients in the UK would love to talk about Prince Andrew and his involvement. But I don't want to do anything that you're not comfortable with, obviously. But I have to say, I really appreciate you taking the time talking to me. It's very good of you, and I think let's have a little. You know, you have my email address. Maybe email tomorrow. See how you're feeling in the morning, and you know, if you do want to go on the record, great. If not, that's fine too.
Okay.
But I'll keep chatting to you.
Would it be okay with you if I say yes, that I would like to go on the record, and ask if you could contact me when you're ready? Because I have already contacted the attorney that you suggested.
No, that's absolutely fine, and we can do that tomorrow if you're happy to do that.
Yes, happy to do that. I very much. I think it's a good part of my healing.
I work for an agency, so you know we're kind of supportive news organization. We kind of try to hook up our clients to who they want to speak to. The guy that will speak to you, if you want to go on the record, is more than likely a guy called Mark Hodge. He works for the Sun newspaper in England. He's a pretty good guy, and he'll certainly report what you have to say to him pretty accurately.
Awesome.
So I can connect with him in the morning if you're okay with that.
Yep.
Now, I will say as well, I can connect you at a higher level, you know, to the senior editors of the Sun if you want. And look, it's up to you. I mean, I can connect you to whoever you want. I can connect you to Times people as well.
Okay. I think whatever you think is best. I don't have a good understanding.
You know, let me think about it.
Okay.
Let me think about it and come back to you in the morning.
Okay.
I want to make sure that your story is reflected in the best way possible. So let me think about it. We'll chat in the morning.
Sounds good. It's great.
The morning for you is, you know, probably a little bit down the night. The morning for me is about 6 hours from now. So maybe about 10 hours.
Okay.
We can have a chat and see how you're feeling, and I'll connect you with who I feel the best person to tell your story.
Great, that would be wonderful. I really appreciate it, and I'll be on the other end of the phone whenever anybody, you or anybody associated with you, calls, or my email, whichever you like.
Look, thanks so much for taking the time. Look, I know it's an awful topic, but I enjoyed the conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I appreciate you taking the time, as I said. So we'll be in touch.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. You have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. I have tried since yesterday to get another video out to give some more information and to try and explain what's happening to me. And it's proven to be a lot tougher than I had ever imagined. What I said in the original video that I posted is very, very, very true. My experience, the details of the things that I have been through are being told in the media, except that they're not being attributed to me. And it's making a little more sense now as to why. I have contacted every one of the attorneys that claims to be representing victims. I have spoken to a journalist. I don't remember now what day it was. It was a few days ago. Joe Galvin with the New York Post, who in his own statement said that he believes me and that my account matches with other victims. I don't know how to make sense of any of this because, you know, I know I'm a victim, and I know that I have been contacting attorneys for some time. I know that I have had a lot of interference with being able to have my story told and have my day in court. I can go into all the details. I just know that not everybody has all the time for this. I have been reporting that I have been being sex trafficked to various agencies beginning in 2003. The first agency I had reported to was called SWAP, Sex Workers Outreach Project. Sex workers are nothing more than sex trafficked victims by a nicer name. It's still illegal. They told me that they could test me for AIDS and give me condoms. That's one thing that matches up with my own personal life experience and account of the many times that I've tried to reach out and get help. I've already said in the first video what happened to me when I answered an ad, which is coercion. A lot of these legal terms were things that I didn't understand until recently, when my daughter, who was also trafficked and subjected to a lot of the same circumstances as myself, she died under suspicious circumstances. And, you know, I've been speaking out about that for a long time. Everything that I am dealing with is extremely difficult. Not just because of the emotional trauma that I've suffered as a victim of this sex trafficking ring, but also because of the continued victimization in the media. And by the attorneys and those in power who refuse to do the right thing. I mean, yeah, of course they're not going to. Of course they're going to do everything they can to hide the truth and to cover up their lies. But what real victims are going through, trying to seek justice, is just beyond what is it's inhumane. I know that there are people who suffer worse, but my reason for making that first video is because of how many lies and how much deception I saw being told about Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor. I was trafficked to them. It didn't begin with them. Sam Kuba, who I thought he was a Saudi Arabian. He was a professor at my community college.
Jonathan Luna, a federal prosecutor from Baltimore, Maryland, was 38 years old when his body was discovered in a stream along Dry Tavern Road in Lancaster County.
He had a back up. He wouldn't back off, and it cost him his life. He wound up in Lancaster County, and he wound up dead.
It was December 4th, 2003. He was stabbed 36 times, and his throat had been slit. Lancaster County's coroner ruling Luna's death a drowning. In manner of death, homicide. Private investigator on the case, William Buckingham, who is a former police detective, says he believes there's more to the case than what officials are letting on.
I know who sanctioned it. I know who was involved in the hit. If I know it, why don't the state police know it?
Buckingham says last week he filed a right-to-know request for coroner records. His request denied. The documents, though, found in the basement of a Lancaster Government Center building. Lancaster County's district attorney requesting to seal the records, later granted by a judge.
You have a cover-up, which is what I think this is, both by the FBI and the Pennsylvania State Police.
Now, when you approach state police, the FBI, with information that you have uncovered, what is the response?
Nothing.
According to police, in the hours leading up to Luna's murder, he was working on a plea deal in a Baltimore drug case at the courthouse. He left his office just before midnight, never making it back home to his family.
Whoever went into that courthouse and took him out was either known by security or had a badge.
Did he have any connections in Lancaster County? What would he be doing in that area?
That's a good question. We don't know that he would be doing anything in that area on his own. It's felt that the body was dropped off there for a specific reason.
Along with his car.
Along with his car. There was another car involved that had to be the getaway car.
The Lancaster County District Attorney's Office turning down our request for an interview, writing, "We are declining to comment outside of court procedure." Lancaster County's coroner saying he was surprised to find out the records were in Lancaster all along.
Since I took office 12 years ago, we never had possession of those charts. And I had been told that the physical chart had gone and physical records had gone to the FBI. Previously, when we had requested the records, we were told there were no records of Jonathan Luna in the archives.
Buckingham says he'd like to see the case solved.
He had a wife and 2 children at home. They never got justice. I've made my mind up not to rest until this case is solved. You know what I'm talking about? There's no need for this. If they wanted this solved, it would have been solved a long time ago.
Finding justice is Bill Buckingham's motivation. He wants to know what really happened to Jonathan Luna in December 2003.
I will do anything I can to get this case solved.
Bill, a former cop and detective, didn't know Luna or his family, but believes they deserve to know how Jonathan died.
And I can tell you, my impression of this case is that between the FBI and the state police, there's a massive cover-up.
Bill says the investigation is full of unanswered questions. So far, he claims he's located missing evidence and found a witness.
If I can find what I found in a year and a half, tell me these 2 fine investigating agencies can't find it too and more.
Buckingham believes Luna was killed because of a case he was working on. Luna, he says, was forcibly taken from his Baltimore office, leaving his glasses, cell phone, and laptop behind. Then, he adds, Luna was beaten, stabbed, and brought to Pennsylvania, where he was left to die.
There was blood in that car that wasn't Jonathan Luna's. To the best of my knowledge, it has never been tested. That's one of the red flags I have.
Buckingham says he knows who killed Luna and why, but he isn't ready to share. He believes someday justice will be served.
I think it will. I don't know if I'll be here to see it, but I think it will.
He was trying to run away. He was terrified.
Author William Kiesling wrote a book about the case.
It was a murder. It was clearly a murder. The guy had been vicious. viciously killed outside of Lancaster.
The Lancaster County coroner at the time agreed and ruled the case a homicide. But soon, reports surfaced the FBI was pressuring him to change that ruling to suicide. Investigators said the weapon was likely Luna's own penknife.
The police reports say that there was a pool of blood in the rear passenger seat. So, what are they saying? That a U.S. attorney was driving across 4 states, stabbing himself in the back, cutting his throat, laying in the... Is the Justice Department hiring insane people? It's ridiculous. The guy was repeatedly lynched. He was killed in this vicious manner. And then he was totally destroyed of character and reputation.
Kiesling believes that Luna's death was more likely connected to his final trial. He says court transcripts show the case was falling apart, that Luna was uncomfortable with one of the plea deals, and he says the trial had exposed the possible mishandling of an FBI informant.
They don't want the public to look at this. Instead, they want the public to think that he traveled across 4 states, stabbing himself in the back, slitting his own throat, slashing his own hands. He deserves better than this.
Jonathan Luna was a 38-year-old prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Baltimore, described by friends as charming, funny, and smart. On the night of December 3rd, 2003, he was at his office working on a plea bargain for a drug case. Just before midnight, the married father of 2 children apparently got in his car in the office garage and drove off, leaving his glasses and cell phone on his desk. 6 hours later, and 100 miles away from Baltimore, Luna's body was found near his car in a shallow creek in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. He had been stabbed more than 30 times, prompting the medical examiner to rule the case a homicide, though the official cause of death was drowning. A $100,000 reward was soon offered, and law enforcement officers in Maryland and Pennsylvania vowed to do everything in their power to find the person or people responsible. But more than 10 years later, not only has nobody been arrested, it remains very much unclear exactly what happened to Jonathan Luna.